look, bro, you gotta look for the signs of crazy people, y'all. Look, if a nigga walking out here, bro, with the top of their head exposed like that, with the moon roof open, they don't give a fuck about nothing. I'm telling you, they don't give a damn about nothing. Cause that shit's not normal, y'all. We can't make it seem like that shit's normal, bro. Hey, what it be? It's your boy Dre OG. Welcome back to the OG family. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you're rocking with the vibes and the content. But look, man, we got these top 10 people who the CIA fear the most. Who does the CIA fear the most? You know? Before the video starts, put it in the comments down below, my beautiful people. And these videos are for education and entertainment purposes. Let's get it.
There are some horrible people in the world, and we have rounded up 10 of the worst for ya. Here are the top 10 people the CIA fears the most. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Scott Erskine. We are starting off this list with truly one of the worst people I've ever heard about. Scott's story starts off when he was a child and suffered an injury that involved his head and brain. He seemed to recover fine physically, but continued to complain of headaches and that sort of thing, and it is unclear if these things were ever looked into further. At a very young age, he began to commit violent crimes against others that I truly cannot even speak about here on YouTube. He spent 4 years in prison
you can't do
for one
that.
of his crimes when he was around 17 years old, but when he was paroled after the 4 years, he immediately began committing crimes again. In 1993, Scott invited a woman who was waiting for the bus into his home and ended up holding her hostage for several days. After letting her go, he was quickly arrested and ended up being sentenced to 70 years in prison.
70.
This is when he had to submit DNA to a database, and in March of 2001, the DNA was matched when the cold cases of the unsolved murders of Jonathan Sellers and Charlie Keever were reopened. In 2004, a jury sentenced him to death, and 6 days later, he was transferred to San Quentin. In an interesting turn of events, Scott did die on death row, but it wasn't due to a scheduled execution. Scott died a couple years ago in July of 2020 after contracting COVID-19. In our number 9 spot today, we have Dennis BTK Rader.
Oh, I remember this
BTK
dude.
Killer, whose real name is Dennis Rader, was one of the worst serial killers from 1974 to 1991. He left taunting letters to police and newspapers where he described his crimes, but thankfully his annoyingly large and misplaced ego is what led to his demise.
And forehead, big head. You know, he got, look, bro, you got to look for the signs of crazy people, y'all. Look, if a nigga walking out here, bro, with the top of their head exposed like that, with the moon roof open, they don't give a fuck about nothing. I'm telling you, they don't give a damn about nothing. Cause that shit's not normal, y'all. We can't make it seem like that shit's normal, bro.
Craved the attention so
His
badly.
head all opened up like that.
He started
losing his mind, literally.
Again to try and be all smug
Look at that shit.
or whatever. But this, combined with his utter lack of knowledge on how technology works, led to him being arrested in 2005. Imagine getting away with those crimes for so long, and your ego and your own ignorance does you in the end. During his trial, he didn't apologize for his crimes, but he did describe them in full detail, which is horrifying and honestly very unnerving. After his trial, he ended up being sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years. When Rader was first arrested and police were taking him to the station, an officer asked him, "Mr. Rader, do you know why you're going downtown?" To which he replied, "Oh, I have suspicions why." Ew. In our number 8 spot today, we have Chester Turner. Chester is an American serial killer who, on April 30th, 2007, was convicted of taking the lives of 11 women in the Los Angeles area, and on June 19th, 2014, he was convicted of 4 more that they were able to tie back to him. He has been referred to by prosecutors as one of the most prolific serial killers in the city's history, and if you know Los Angeles's history with things like that, that is not something to take lightly. In his original trial that led to conviction, Chester was sentenced to death, but at the following one in 2014, he also received an additional death sentence.
I mean, I don't be getting that.
These kinds of stories, DNA came to save the day and help authorities find out who was committing these horrible, horrible crimes. In our number 7 spot today, we have Gary Ridgway.
They be like killing people, like, bro, who came up with that shit, man? We gotta talk about that. Like, who came up with that? Like, oh, we're gonna give you another life sentence, so when you get reincarnated, we're gonna kill that motherfucker too. Like, are we keeping track of that? Like, what's going on, bro? Like, What's the purpose?
Human being is also sometimes known as
Eat
the
twice.
River Killer, and his crimes took place somewhere between 1982 to potentially as recent as 2001. He was convicted of 49 crimes but confessed to an unbelievable 71, which makes him the second most prolific serial killer in the United States in terms of confirmed killings. Most of his victims were either sex workers or women in other vulnerable circumstances, and through DNA profiling evidence, in 2001, authorities were able to connect him to 4 of his crimes. From there, they made a deal with him where they would spare him the death sentence in exchange for disclosure of the location of all of the missing women. Gary took the deal and was spared the death
like a
sentence
stressed out
and
chicken,
instead was
baby
sentenced
chicken,
to
don't he?
life without the possibility of parole. Not only did he say that he chose the type of victims he did because they were, quote, easy to pick, and that he, quote, hated most of them, but he also called his crimes his career. I hate him. In our number 6 spot today, we have Charles N.G. Charles' story really starts off shortly after he moved to the United States on a student visa. He dropped out after his first semester, and soon after he was involved in a hit-and-run accident. He then tried to avoid prosecution by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps using false documents that stated his birthplace was within the United States. He was arrested by military police a year later for stealing automatic weapons, and then somehow he escaped custody, headed back towards Northern California, and this is where he met Leonard Lake, who is another real piece of work. Charles did end up going away and serving a bit of time, but it was only 18 months, and then he was back with Leonard, and that is when the two started their crime spree together.
That's crazy. How y'all get together?
Together, the pair took the lives of somewhere from 11 to 25 different people. When Leonard was caught and brought in for questioning, he sneakily took a cyanide pill he had hidden in his jacket and took his own life, but Charles ended up standing trial. He was convicted for 11 of the killings, and he remains on death row at San Quentin. In our number 5 spot today, we have Robert PICKTON. This horrible person is one of the worst Canadians to ever live and is one of our country's worst serial killers ever. PICKTON dropped out of school and began working at his family's pig farm, and this is where most of his absolutely horrific crimes took place. He was first arrested in 2002.
Yeah, look at his head again.
In 2007 of taking the lives of 6 people,
right?
But throughout an extremely lengthy investigation, evidence of many more killings came to light. During his time in jail, an undercover police officer posed as his cellmate, and PICKTON confessed to 49 crimes to him. Apparently, he was saying to the undercover officer that he wanted to take one more life to make it an even 50, and that he only got caught because he was sloppy.
No, what sloppy is the top of your head looking like that. That's what hell is sloppy. You feel me? Look, I'm telling y'all, they losing their fucking minds, bro. When you can walk out like that. Come on, bro. Logic ain't even there no more.
But it led to a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 25 years, which was the longest possible sentence under Canadian law at the time. This unfortunately does mean that he will be eligible for parole within the next decade, so let's hope that never ever happens.
Wow.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Golden State Killer. The Golden State Killer is one of the most well-known serial killers ever, and that is never a good thing. From 1973 to 1986, the GSK was responsible for taking the lives of 13 people, harming 50, and 120 different burglaries all across California. Throughout the investigation process, he used different tactics to both taunt and threaten police and the victims, which is just on a whole other disgusting level. Through recent genetic testing, like those 23andMe things, the identity of the GSK was finally revealed after years and years of investigations. Basically, they uploaded a DNA profile that they were able to get from the crime scenes to the website GED Match. They were able to find 10 to 20 people who had the same great-great-great-grandparents as a match.
Man.
And then from there, the genealogist made a large family tree, and from there, they were then able to single out 2 main suspects. After covertly collecting DNA samples from one of the suspects and comparing them with the crime scene DNA, they were finally able to arrest Joseph James D'Angelo, who is the Golden State Killer. After decades of waiting, the victims of his crimes were finally able to see justice served, as he was sentenced to 12 life sentences plus 8 years.
Boy, that nigga, hey boy, his skin is looking like cheese. Boy, they caught his ass when he was about 200 years old, didn't they? 200 years later, goddamn, they finally caught his ass, looking like melted cheese. He's still out here living. That's crazy.
Because he admitted to numerous crimes that he had perpetrated, some of which he wasn't even being charged for. He is now 75 years old and will definitely spend the rest of his life in prison. In our number 3 spot today, we have Rodney ALCALA. Rodney is a horrible monster who was convicted and sentenced to death for 5 killings that he committed in California from 1977 to 1979. He also received an additional 25 years to life after pleading guilty to 2 other killings in New York from 1971 to 1977. Rodney got away with his crimes for a while because he wasn't the top of the list of suspects because he was said to be the, quote, charming photographer. Rodney is often referred to as the dating game killer because of his appearance on the show, which, with what we now know about him, is absolutely horrifying. What's even crazier is that he actually won the show he was on, but the episode's bachelorette refused to go on a date with him because she found him, quote, creepy. This is just a reminder to always trust your instincts. It isn't exactly known just how many victims Rodney had. It is potentially thought that it could be much higher than the number he was convicted for. In July of last year, Rodney passed away in prison at the age of 77. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, this dude was vicious.
Make it on this list today because while there are a plethora of terrifying people on this list, nothing is as terrifying as an uncaught serial killer, and the Zodiac is definitely the most prolific of them all. The Zodiac Killer took the lives of 5 people in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969. He was most known for targeting young couples or a lone male cab driver. Despite 2 people luckily and thankfully escaping his attempted evil doings, he has still never been caught. He was one of those losers who left notes and stuff for the police to find. I like that they think they're being all cool and clever and brave while they do that. Like, if you're so brave and almighty and unafraid, then show us your face. While no one has heard from the Zodiac since 1974, the case remains active in many different countries, and maybe one day we'll finally know who the real Zodiac is. In our number 1 spot today, we have Robert HANSEN. Robert is often referred to as the Butcher.
Hey, that's wild, though. Just think about it, man. How many more people like this have not been found, bro? And they just really out here just serialing this shit up. I don't want to say it because, you know, YouTube demonetize you, stuff like that, because it's sensitive. But this is for educational purposes, though. We learned something today, but it's crazy, man. It's a lot of these motherfuckers that are still out here on the loose, haven't been found. But DNA is a big part of how they getting caught, man. Real talk, real talk. It's just crazy to think about this. These people can be living right next door to you. That's why I'm saying, pay attention, man. Protect your energy. Bro, look, I don't be out here messing with everybody.
Baker, and his story truly is horrific. He's one of the most prolific serial killers in Alaska's history because for over a decade, he would kidnap women and bring them into the wilderness where he would then stalk them like prey. I am just now realizing that there is definitely an episode of Criminal Minds about this guy. Sometimes the premise is just so dark that it sticks with you. The reason he got away with his crimes for so long is because outside of these horrific things, he was just a soft-spoken baker. One of my best friends has the nicest, most kind bakers for parents, and now I'm starting to feel a little suspicious. Might want to look into them, Robin. Robert was heading to church by day and prowling strip clubs at night looking for the next person to take. What led to the downfall of this horrible monster was a badass named Cindy Paulson who was able to escape from Robert and was sure to leave evidence behind. She then went to authorities and told them what happened, and this led to a search warrant for Robert's property, which is where all the evidence they needed lied. Robert is believed to have taken the lives of at least 17 women, and in 1983 he was sentenced to 461 years and a life sentence without the possibility of parole.
Yeah, like, once again, that's just wild to me, man. These people could be right next door to y'all, man. So always make sure y'all paying attention, man. Protect y'all families, man. Make sure y'all have a plan. If something happens inside your house, make sure y'all have a plan, contingency plans. Make sure y'all ready for anything, you know. I'm big on that. Protect your family, protect your energy, man. Look, man, like I always say, spread love because there's too much hate in this world. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. And I'm out, though. Bye.